Hello there, YouTube. So it's been a while since I've seen you. Since we've last spoken, worldwide handsome, shaved his head and enlisted in the military. I graduated from grad school with a 4.0 GPA. And also, there was not only a midterm election, but then a runoff election in which Democrats did somewhat better than expected. Now this video is going to be me reading a wild theory about why that is. However, the article in question comes from September 2021 and I made the following video a year ago. I just didn't get around to editing it and uploading it until now because the spring semester last year really kicked my ass. So I do talk about some things as if they just happened yesterday when really they happened a year ago. That is why. So on September 10th, 2021, this guy John Nolte wrote one hell of an opinion piece over on Breitbart. Nolte, Howard Stern proves Democrats want unvaccinated Trump voters dead. And I guess it's referring to this.
As far as I remember, when I went to school, you had to get a measles vaccine, you had to get a mumps vaccine, you had to get, there was a ton of them you got.
You still have to. In order to go to school, you have to have certain vaccines.
When are we going to stop putting up with the idiots in this country and just say, it's mandatory to get vaccinated? F them, f their freedom. I want my freedom to live.
Do you know why I think Howard Stern is going full monster with his mockery of 3 fellow human beings who died of the coronavirus? Because leftists like Stern and CNN LOL and Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and Anthony Fauci are deliberately trying to manipulate Trump voters into not getting vaccinated. Nothing else makes sense to me. He claimed that people on the left hate Republicans so much that they are trying to manipulate Republicans into not taking the Trump vaccine. And they're doing this by making the vaccine readily available, fighting to make it readily available, fighting to make it free, handing out all of these vaccine mandates so that even if you're a little bit hesitant about getting that vaccine, you have some extra motivation to go get that vaccine, making a point day after day after day by saying oh, hey, by the way, did you know that there's this virus going around that's killing people? Did you know that we have this vaccine that drastically reduces your risk of dying from this virus? This is a manipulative tactic from the left. It is reverse psychology. He says nothing else makes sense to him. And I'm like, nothing else makes sense to you because you are a political hack. Because you cannot see beyond this us versus them type of thinking. You could not ever find common ground with a Democrat, with anybody who is a liberal or a leftist. Oh, hell no. The words, the Republicans are wrong and the Democrats are right, just does not exist in his vocabulary. And so when it comes to all of this anti-vax coverage that is happening on Fox News.
Other than being a celebrity now, what's next for you?
I'm the spokesperson for thousands and thousands, I even say millions of people. I think there's 2 million people that have actually viewed it. It's been 99% positive from everybody. I think this is my path right now. There's a lot of job offers that I'm getting, phenomenal job offers.
All right, well, a sleeping giant. Yeah, we may be a sleeping giant. So we hope that that's what's happened here. We've awakened it slowly but surely.
Just recently, a man died months after he refused to get the vaccine and he quit his job.
This is my final sign-off after 22 years of serving the citizens of the state of Washington, being asked to leave because I am dirty. State 1034, this is the last time you'll hear me in a state patrol car. And Jay Inslee can kiss my
Joining me now.
And Fox News were like, oh wow, what a hero. They had him on, congratulated him for being a celebrity. Then he was in the hospital for a fucking month, and then he died, and he left his 4 children without a father.
The outcry from the public has been amazing. I did not even expect this. Mine was kind of a screw you, Jay Inslee, we're done. But the way I've been reached out and loved on by the citizens of the United States of America, it's incredible.
But somehow that's the Democrats' fault for trying to get him to get vaccinated. It's the left's fault that he was too stubborn to get vaccinated.
You know, it wasn't a question. When the governor of the state of Washington started his mandate project, my wife and my family we're not taking it. We don't do vaccines. We don't do flu shots. We don't do any of that stuff. So,
but then when this guy dies, Fox News, Fox Entertainment did not cover it. I don't know if they are going to contribute to their GoFundMe campaign to pay for all of those hospital bills. And damn, it's not cheap raising 4 children as a single mother. Fox News isn't to blame for giving guys like this 15 minutes of fame. No, the real enemy are people on the left saying, hey, this is what happens when you don't get vaccinated during a pandemic. In a country where elections are decided on razor-thin margins, does it not benefit one side if their opponent simply drop dead? It doesn't benefit me when you guys leave your children without parents. Holy shit, like there are so many children who are losing parents because of this. If I wanted the Democrats to win or something like every election, instead of trying to manipulate Trump voters into dying so that they can't vote anymore, I would rather, like, I don't know, fight against the Electoral College, see if Republicans can actually pull off a win with a popular vote, because you guys haven't been doing that well with a popular vote. You guys need gerrymandering in order to stay relevant. If I wanted to use reverse psychology to convince people not to get a life-saving vaccination, I would do exactly what Stern and the left are doing. I would bully and taunt and mock and ridicule you for not getting vaccinated, knowing the human response would be, hey, fuck you, I'm never getting vaccinated. The human response, that's a very childish response. I can understand a kid being very rebellious like that because their brains haven't fully formed, but if you are a grown-ass adult, you should know better than to make a life or death decision based purely on pride, based purely on not being able to put facts over feelings. Like what happened to facts over feelings? I thought that Republicans, I thought that people on the right, they were right-wing, they were conservative because they were so smart, they were so rational, they cared about facts and logic, and they didn't care about feelings. Well, not wanting to be embarrassed is a feeling. Pride, those are feelings. And you shouldn't be so arrogant that you can't humble yourself and admit that, hey, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I thought something with confidence, but now I got new information and I realized I was wrong. And now I am going to make a life-saving choice with this new information that I have. No, instead you're going to say, hey, fuck you, I'm never going to get vaccinated. If my kids don't have a parent because of that, oh well. What the fuck? And I would like to point out that, one, there are people on the left who are compassionate with people who are unvaccinated. They are compassionate and patient, more so than some of them deserve. And when they are not compassionate, I think that it makes complete sense, because like hospitals are being overwhelmed and your bad choices are affecting other people. So of course people are being very angry and being very emphatic that you should really reconsider and take that vaccine.
A lot of people are saying that I don't want the vaccine. This is my body. It's my choice what I do with my body. And I understand that. But in my opinion, I don't think that that applies to this situation, because when you choose not to be vaccinated, if you were to catch COVID, you're exposing much more people to COVID, and you're exposing people to COVID that don't have the choice to get the vaccine.
Like there was this nurse, she got COVID on the job, brought it home to her 3-year-old daughter. Her daughter was hospitalized, and she said she felt very angry with people who were not taking this virus seriously.
For those that are unvaccinated and that they go in public, or even if they don't go in public and need treatment in the hospital after catching COVID, I take care of them, and then I'm exposing myself. And that's how in turn I brought it home to my daughter, because maybe if they would have received the vaccine, they could have stayed home. They didn't have to get treatment in the hospital. And I wouldn't have had that exposure, and I wouldn't have brought it home to my daughter. It's a lot of guilt and frustration and a lot of what ifs on my part.
And I saw people in the comment section saying, how immature was that nurse? You know, that sort of thing. And I'm like, how would you feel if you saw your daughter like that? How would you feel if you saw people talking about freedom, freedom, freedom when it came to disregarding public health? Of course she's going to be upset. That's the human response. Saying, fuck you, I'm not going to get vaccinated because you keep telling me to get vaccinated. That is an immature response. This response makes complete sense to me. And why is that a perfectly human response? Because no one ever wants to feel like they are being bullied or ridiculed or mocked or pushed into doing anything. Who wants to cave to a piece of shit like Howard Stern or Jimmy Kimmel or these repulsive doctors refusing to treat the unvaccinated or Bette Midler or who wants to feel like they're caving to a guy who's such a piece of shit? He publicly mocks people who have died. And he's not just a piece of shit mocking them. He's a piece of shit hurting the families the dead man left behind. No one wants to cave to a piece of shit like that, or a scumbag like Fauci, or any of the scumbags at CNN, LOL. So we don't. And what's the result? They're all vaccinated and we're not. And when you look at the numbers, the only numbers that matter, which is who's dying, it's overwhelmingly the unvaccinated who are dying. And they have just manipulated millions of their political enemies into the unvaccinated camp. According to the CDC, 99.5% of those dying of the China flu are unvaccinated. So even if they're lying or exaggerating, even if it's 75 or 80%, those numbers are pretty stark. Could it be? Could it possibly be that the left has manipulated huge swaths of Trump voters into believing they are owning the left by not taking the life-saving Trump vaccine? Instead of criticizing the left, why don't you criticize Fox News?
Matthew Gertz, who covers Fox for Media Matters, wrote, "They were happy to tell his story when it was a useful foil against vaccine mandates. Fox viewers heard the hosts they trusted suggest that it was heroic to resign rather than take life-saving drugs. Now that he's dead, they are nowhere to be found." Fox never got around to updating its audience on Robert Lamay's death yesterday, but they did find time to prop up some new anti-vax culture war heroes who are still alive.
Howard Stern laughed as he mocked a string of right-wing radio hosts who died of COVID after publicly stating their opposition to forced vaccine and mask mandates. On Tuesday's edition of SiriusXM's The Howard Stern Show, the host took pleasure in mocking several late radio hosts with whom he disagreed as he made the case for a mandatory vaccination program.
It's really funny when the radio guys are the best. Like 4 of them died. 4 of them who were like ranting on the air, they will not get vaccinated.
He cackled. So I thought I'd play out the actual audio from the Howard Stern clip because in an age where you have the Herman Cain Awards and other websites like Sorry Anti-Vaxxer, that comment is so weak sauce in comparison.
I posted this over the weekend, and a lot of people commented they saw this on my Instagram page. Anti-masker Caleb Wallace dies after organizing Freedom Defenders Against COVID Mandates.
These socialist ideas are coming from California. I can't tell the difference between you or Governor Newsom. I can't tell the difference. I can't tell the difference if I have freedom to breathe free air or breathe it sucking air behind this thing.
There's another story from quite a few months ago. I think it was back in the summer of 2021, where this guy, he was 30 years old, his name was Caleb Wallace. He advocated against masks, he advocated against vaccines, and he said this:
"My health has nothing to do with you. It's not my job for your health." As harsh as that sounds, but our constitutional fundamental rights protect that. Nothing else. I'm sorry that comes off as blunt, that I don't care. I do care. I care more about freedom than I care about your personal health.
Do you know what happened to Caleb at the ripe old age of 30? He got COVID. he died. By the way, I asked you guys in a community post if you struggle to feel any sort of compassion for the unvaccinated, people who choose not to get vaccinated or who are anti-vax and then they get very sick and they die. Let me just casually toss in Mr. Worldwide Handsome.
What do you say to fans who might be hesitant about getting the vaccine?
일단 저희도 모두 다 같이 백신을 맞았고 백신에 대해 두려움이 있다는 것은 저도 어느 정도 이제 공감을 하고 왜냐하면 이전에 없었던 새로운 것이니까 저 무서운 게 당연하다라고 저도 공감을 하는데 저는 이 과거의 것을 두려워한다면은 뭔가 앞으로의 발전은 없다고 생각을 하거든요.
Let me know how you think, but I will tell you in this case,
I care more about freedom than I care about your personal health.
Don't feel much compassion. I see that he didn't feel much compassion for me or for other people, so.
Because I have no problem saying it. And then some people look, oh my God, you're too harsh. That was unfair. And this is what I put.
I personally don't think that this Instagram post was too harsh. I think it was right on the money. But why don't you let me know what you think in the comments down below. Okay, let's play it out.
This is what I said. Y'all want to see a dumbass? He refused to get vaccinated. He refused to get tested. Led anti-mask mandates. He touted freedom. Well, his ass free now. Free of life. This line from the story is heartbreaking. Wallace, who was 30, leaves behind 3 children and a pregnant wife. You've got to be a selfish idiot to do this to your wife, 3 kids, and baby on the way.
Now, when it comes to the issue of people leaving their children behind because they chose not to get vaccinated, I struggle more with people who do not realize the errors of their ways. I think even with Caleb Wallace, after he got sick, he didn't want to go to the hospital right away because he didn't want to be another statistic of, oh, here's another guy who chose not to get vaccinated and look, he's in the hospital. What happened to him? And then so he decided to treat himself with some ivermectin, and that was unsuccessful. Eventually they took him to the hospital where he racked up quite a hospital bill that his wife will have to pay while she is struggling to bring up 4 children. Yeah, so I just that's a dick move. Have you ever thought that maybe the left has us right where they want us? Just stand back for a moment and think about this. Right now, a countless number of Trump supporters believe they are owning the left by refusing a life-saving vaccine. A vaccine, by the way, everyone on the left has taken. Oh, and so has Trump.
Shafted me out of my president. I ain't taking your medicine. Not from, I'll take what they give him, but I'm not taking yours.
He took the vaccine, though.
Well, he might have. I don't know that.
I think they give him the Regeneron.
They did give him that, but he did take the vaccine.
Later on, probably, yeah. I'm not saying he didn't. I don't know that. But
now think about this. On this very day, about 1,000 people in the U.S. will die of the China flu. How many of those lives could have been saved had they been vaccinated? Is it 998? 778? 229? Does it matter? And if the left is all vaccinated and we're not, who's winning? The push for mandates is another ploy to get us to dig in and not do what's best for ourselves because no one wants to feel like they're caving to a mandate.
Not taking the vaccine wasn't even a question. The process, how they did it was ridiculous, and making people do this or you're losing your job was ridiculous.
Yeah, you know, you made your feelings on Governor Inslee very clear during your final call. And his vaccine mandate goes into effect today. Show proof of vaccine or essentially lose your job.
Something that I do want to point out in terms of mask mandates and vaccine mandates, I would personally argue that they hurt the Democrats politically rather than help them, because if the goal was for the Republicans to be so stubbornly anti-vax, they end up not getting the vaccine and then dying. If you give them a vaccine mandate, you have to get vaccinated or you'll lose your job. And there's going to be a lot of Republicans who got vaccinated begrudgingly, and they are super pissed at the Democrats who made them get vaccinated. And that's going to include people who maybe were apolitical, or, maybe they didn't show up every election, but since they were made to put a shot in their arm or lose their job, they were extra motivated to go and vote. So it made them more mad, but it also got them vaccinated so that they survived until this election.
My fellow coworkers, they feel the same way. I mean, a lot of them, when we started off this program, there was several hundred that were willing to get fired. Well, then they started looking at their finances. They looked at what they can do, and they decided to take the vaccination. The question that people aren't asking are how many people that are vaccinated that are still willing to leave.
I know that when Robert Lamay took a stand, people were like, oh, he's a hero for people like me who felt forced to get vaccinated. And those people, once he died, didn't say, if I had been like him, if I had been too stubborn to get the vaccine, maybe I would have died too, just like him. They're not thinking that. They're not thinking, oh, thank God that Democrat made me get vaccinated and helped me survive this pandemic. No, they're never going to give the Democrats credit for that. They're only going to be angry that they were made to do something that they didn't want to do. I do think that there are people who are vaccinated who didn't want to be, who then went on to vote against the Democrats who made them get vaccinated. Final note, how many of you were aware that the CDC believes that 99.5% of those dying are unvaccinated? I bet not many of you. So why would the metric, that is the most convincing one, not be all over the place? That guy asked why that number isn't all over the place, and I say, you can just ask why Tucker Carlson isn't talking about that number. You can ask why people on Fox News aren't emphasizing that as often as they should be. By the way, I do know that there are normal Republicans who are not like this. Most of my family are Republicans and most of them are vaccinated. I do have one family member who is not vaccinated and who is anti-vax, but that is a different story. I gotta say, CNN, MSNBC, you can have your criticisms of those news stations. I certainly do, but they make it very clear that the majority of people who are dying are unvaccinated. Once you learn that 99.5% of deaths are unvaccinated, it cuts through all the muck. The number is startling, an eye-opener. Forget cases, forget mandates, forget masks, and Howard Stern. When you learn that almost everyone dying is unvaccinated, that's a come to Jesus moment. I could be wrong. Maybe the left isn't that evil and sly. Yeah, you think? And maybe people on the right should take personal responsibility for themselves.
The latest CDC guidelines say COVID-positive people should isolate for 5 days and wear a mask for 5 days after that. But as Amber Cagliano reports, Palin's ignoring that amid legitimate concerns that she might be infectious.
Very recently, Sarah Palin, she said, I think a couple of months ago, that it would be over her dead body that she would have to get vaccinated. Then she got COVID. She got called out for dining indoors at a New York restaurant because she's not supposed to do that as an unvaccinated person. So the next time she went to that restaurant, she dined outdoors in the outer cafe. But the problem was, not only was she unvaccinated, she had COVID. She announced on Fox News that she had COVID, so it wasn't a secret.
Having COVID, evidently, as of this morning, it being confirmed.
And instead of quarantining, she went out and ate dinner with a bunch of other people. During a fucking pandemic, like, this is just so irresponsible.
She's got COVID, and yet here she is, dining out with pals at a fancy Manhattan restaurant. She seemed oblivious that she might well be spreading the virus.
You broke the COVID protocol, so you're basically giving the finger to New Yorkers and New York City.
It's incredibly selfish.
Yeah. But yeah, Sarah Palin was called out by Meghan McCain. I disagree with Meghan McCain on many things, but she got her ass vaccinated and she called out Sarah Palin, who ran with Meghan McCain's father. I saw somebody comment that they were all set to vote for John McCain in 2008, and then they saw Sarah Palin as his running mate, and they were like, hell no, hell no, hell no.
Going out 2 days after you're diagnosed is like the height of irresponsibility. And
This virus is not just about me. It's not just about her. It's about our fellow citizens. It's about the possibility of infecting other people.
When I think of the unvaccinated lying there dying, being told by their doctor, sorry, there's nothing more we can do to get enough oxygen to your lungs, I don't laugh. My heart breaks for that person. Imagine lying there dying, thinking all you had to do was get the Trump vaccine. Even if this isn't the left's plan, who's owning who? Follow John Nolte on Twitter and follow his Facebook page here. No, thank you. I feel like this is just about like not having any principles yourself, and your only principle is anything the left is for, I need to be against. And if we're for the same thing, I have to do mental gymnastics to say that they're actually against the thing that they say that they're for. Kind of final note, a few months ago, I made a video where I argued against this sort of rhetoric.
And this is just a particularly delightful, note the sarcasm, portion. You're literally insane, and your way of thinking just marginalizes fat people who happen to change their bodies either unintentionally or intentionally. Losing weight because you can't walk isn't fat phobia. Thinking that the reason you can't walk is because of your weight is fat phobia.
And keep in mind, I was able to argue against this rhetoric without somehow blaming Republicans.
This person is asking if there is any time in which intentional weight loss is not fat phobic. I'm going to say 99.9% of the times, if you are intentionally losing weight, it is fat phobic.
But I did talk about some of my issues with cringe content in general when it's focused so much on bullying or body shaming or just trying to humiliate the other person rather than being compassionate. And I try to approach this issue with compassion, but I also think that it's very dangerous to say that intentional weight loss is not only super problematic at best, but it's also dangerous. It's potentially life-threatening. It's so awful to spread that misinformation, especially in a pandemic where a lot of people who have died of COVID were overweight or obese, and overweight and obese people vulnerable to this virus. For some reason, it's like, I feel like there are two groups. You have one group who is very much like pro-vaccine, but if you mention anything about fat acceptance and you're at all critical of it, even if you're critical of the ideas and not of what people look like, then you're a bigot. I watched this video where a woman said that she didn't owe anybody health.
I don't owe my health to anyone. And I don't understand why a doctor would work in medicine if they hate unhealthy people. It's literally their job to help and treat people who are in various states of health.
She was talking about why she doesn't need to lose weight because she doesn't owe anybody health. Meanwhile, her infant is gurgling and babbling in the background. Is that different than if an anti-vaxxer said, oh, I don't owe anybody the vaccine, meanwhile, the infant is in the background? Because to me, I see no difference really. I mean, I do see a difference in the sense that if you get the vaccine, you can just go to the pharmacy down the street and get the vaccine, whereas with weight loss, there's diet culture and all of these different traps and stuff. I understand that. I understand that, like, you can't just snap your fingers or get a shot and you're no longer obese. I get that. It takes substantially more work if you are overweight and obese to modify your behavior, and there's just a lot of misinformation about how to do that properly, and I get that part. But my issue is, of course, with this idea that you shouldn't even try.
Also, I've said 4,000 times that unintentional weight loss is not fat phobic, and I have no problem with unintentional weight loss. However, you're absolutely right. I do alienate people who intentionally lose weight, and that's my goal. I don't care. I'm not here for you or for people like you. Just because you have bought into the absolute lie that is the diet industry and the self-hatred, and just because you convinced yourself that you needed to literally alter the way your body fundamentally is designed to work because you, couldn't do some PT to strengthen yourself? You couldn't do some exercise to strengthen yourself?
And not just, oh, I'm not even going to try, but everybody else shouldn't try. And they are wrong for trying to better their health. I think that that's so messed up.
I'm saying when you are intentionally exercising to lose weight, altering your diet to lose weight, doing any activity intentionally to lose weight is fat phobic. And the reason why is because you are intentionally attempting to make your body smaller to fit into what narrative? The narrative that smaller is healthier, even though we've already discussed why that's not true. I know there was another comment on this video that said something along the lines of, when I'm lighter, I don't have as many issues with my mobility. And that may be a correlation, but it doesn't necessarily mean that extra weight is a causation, especially if you are not in care of somebody like a physical therapist that is specifically certified or has previously practiced physical therapy with a fat body.
When you see people make that sort of argument, do you think that John Nolte is going to be like, oh, thank God for the liberals, thank God for the left. They are trying to encourage us into losing weight and into going to the gym because they're being so absolutely ridiculous. I see in the comment section of these fat acceptance cringe videos, people saying, oh, thank you for putting this together. This really helped motivate me while I was at the gym today. Okay? So you're not going to give them credit for reverse psychology and helping you with your fitness goals?